Hi, second grade. Today we're going to make a picture and we're going to use something called printmaking. And printmaking, one of the ways you can do printmaking is by dipping different objects into paint and then pushing them onto your paper. So I've got a piece of paper. I've got paint. It's easier if you put it on a plate because you want a flat surface for your paint. And I just did the rainbow, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, and then I did put some black in the middle. So I'm using, got a little piece of sponge, I've got a noodle, a dry noodle shaped like a wagon wheel. I've got, this was an end of a paper towel roll from paper towels we use here at school. So it's a circle and it's got this little piece on it that I can use as a handle. I'm using a plastic fork, a heart cookie cutter, and some bubble wrap where the bubbles are not popped. Okay, so I think it's easier if you keep your one item in the same color, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. So I'm going to start with the little wagon wheel. And I'm going to use orange for that. So I'm dipping the paint, or the wagon wheel into the paint. Then I'm just setting it on the paper. Yep, I'm not sure if it's going to work. Try it again. Well, it's giving me little circles. They're not really turning out like wagon wheels. Yeah, so sometimes we pick something and it doesn't work out so well, but that's okay. I'm still going to use it and just do a couple. Okay, so I'm going to put that to the side. And next I'm going to do my circle, and I'm going to use purple for my circle. Yes, this is turning out better. The circles are turning out better. So if you don't have a circle, you could use the bottle cap top. Or a little lid. All right, gonna put that to the side for now. All right, next I'm gonna use my fork, and I think I'm gonna use black. So I'm using the part that you would eat off of, and I'm just dipping it on the back, and not the whole thing, just the end. And then you get these nice little lines. And you can paint over the other paint. You don't have to just use the white spots. But if you get a lot of paint on there, you might need to let it dry a little bit between stamping other things. Okay, so next I'm going to use the sponge, and I'm going to use it in yellow. So I just dipped my sponge And this is giving me kind of like, well, it's a rectangle, but like a brick look. Now make sure you get permission with whatever you decide to print make with. Make sure you have permission to put it in paint before you start painting, so that way you won't get in trouble for putting paint on something you shouldn't have. And you really don't need a lot of paint. I put way too much on my plate. I do not need this much paint, but that's okay. All right, so next I'm going to do the heart, and I'm gonna, of course, use red for the heart. So this is a cookie cutter, and I use it in art to do this, and I use it when we make clay. I will roll out the clay and then stamp it into a heart shape. So cookie cutters aren't just for cookies. But like I said, make sure you have permission before you dip anything into paint. This is washable paint, so I'm just gonna, when I'm finished here, I'm just going to take everything to the sink and give it a good wash, and then it'll be like there was never paint on it. So if you don't have the kind of paint that I'm using, you can, I don't know how well it will work, but you could try using liquid watercolor. Now, how do you get liquid watercolor? You can use food coloring and just put it in some water, and then you have liquid watercolor. It definitely, the colors wouldn't turn out as dark as they are on this one, but you could still try it if you don't have these kind of paints at home. Or a good place to get paint for cheap is at Dollar Tree. And you wouldn't have to have all these colors, you could just get a couple colors. All right. And then last, my paper's getting pretty full, but I still have my bubble wrap to use. So, I know it's hard to see because it's clear, but there's the bubble wrap. So the bubbles are sticking up off of the plastic. That's the part I want to dip into the blue paint. Okay, and then I'm just going to turn it over. Press it down a little bit. You can even do this with the paintbrush. You could put the paint on it instead of dipping it. And now my paint is all still very wet, so I am getting some other colors of paint on here. So if you don't want to do this while your paint is still wet, just wait a few minutes in between each thing you use before you paint anything else. Okay? So that is printmaking. And then you can still see the bubble wrap and the fork and the heart and the circles and the sponge. The only thing that didn't turn out was that little piece of pasta with the wagon wheel. But that happens sometimes. So then if you look at your picture and you say, oh, I want a couple more circles, you can go back in and add more. Like I don't have anything in the corners as much as the rest of the picture, so I might want to add a couple circles there. And then when you're happy with it, you let it dry, and then you can display it. You could put it in a picture frame. You can get a picture frame at Dollar Tree for cheap. We could frame it. Yeah, so that's it. And every time you do it, it turns out different, and that's the fun of it. All right, I will see you next time.